So here is a quick review for our post-test that we're taking tomorrow. So first of all, the difference between informal and formal or academic writing. So informal writing could include a letter to a friend, an email, personal journal or diary, your grocery list, or a note that you scratch on a napkin, for example. Formal and academic writing could take the form of reports, lab reports, essays, and all their varieties, research papers, articles, term papers, and dissertations. So you want to be able to give a few of those examples. So about thesis statements, you'll be defining it on your own, but some general guidelines are that it's one sentence, it presents an arguable claim, so it can't be immediately obvious or closed-ended. It's supported by multiple points of evidence. It usually appears at the end of the introduction, and it will not include I think or I believe. You just remove those words and it'll sound much more assertive. And it gives the reader a clear understanding of what the paper will talk about and what angle you're going to come from, while giving them a blueprint for the rest of the paper. So we have talked about MLA, citation style, but there's also APA, which is used by the American Psychological Association. So if you're in a psychology course, that's probably what you're going to be using for your papers. There's also Chicago, which is used by the humanities and history. And then one other example I threw out is AMA, which is American Medical Association. So if you're looking at a report that a doctor published after researching in a hospital, he would be, or she, would be using the AMA citation style. And there are many, many more, because these are professional organizations, so many professions have their own styles. So when to use and when to avoid the personal pronoun I. So in formal writing, I and you are avoided, because readers are different and your paper doesn't necessarily apply to them. For example, there was a male instructor that was talking about a paper he received about why you're expected to wear makeup, and he said, really, am I expected to wear makeup? Because the author was female and her audience was female, but since she used the general you, it was applying to everybody, no matter the gender of the reader. So that made it humorous. So when discussing research that you conducted yourself, a personal pronoun can be appropriate, or else it would just be really awkward. Personal anecdotes, if appropriate and tightly related to what you're discussing, can go into a footnote. And you is never used to refer to people in general. So parts of speech. So if you want to review this more closely, you can go to page 368 and then all the way through 380 in your textbook. So a noun, person, place, or thing, and then I gave you some examples. So I'm just looking for a very general definition. It doesn't have to be detailed. I'm not looking for anything fancy. So for conjunction, if you put connecting word, I would accept that. So you can pause the screen and take a look at these definitions and examples, but I will move on. So other terms, sentence fragment is an incomplete sentence. It's missing a subject or a verb. And sometimes you'll have, you think, okay, there's no way that sentence is incomplete, it's very long. But it could be because of the way that you structured it. You have a subordinate conjunction, which makes it an incomplete sentence. So if you remove that word, for example, let's say, although I enjoy going to the movies. Well, I enjoy going to the movies is a complete sentence. It works fine on its own. But once you add that although, it becomes a dependent clause. You're expecting something else to come after it. Although I enjoy going to the movies, I rarely get to because it costs an arm and a leg. So go ahead and look at plagiarism, and I think we talked about peer-reviewed journal articles. And then expository writing, I'm just looking for that word inform. So review these two tricky words on page 356, and it's pretty short and concise, so that will only probably take about 40 seconds to do that. So sources that you can use in an academic paper. Remember, you can use sources to support your claim and support your more reliable evidence. So sources you use don't all have to be super reliable. They can be biased because you're basing your commentary off of that. So you can analyze its bias, but you would still have to use it as a source. So be sure that you can name a few of these. Primary versus secondary sources. Basically, a primary source is very close to the event, both in time and space, and it's a first-hand account. So in some ways, it's very valuable information because you're getting it right from the source. On the other hand, that person could be hugely biased. So then it has to be interpreted and put into perspective. And then that analysis would become a secondary source, which is written or created after the event, and it's more interpretive and analytical. And the two most reliable internet domains are .edu and .gov. That should be pretty easy to remember. And that is it. So study up and we'll see how you do.